Right. All right. And we were back with one of the panelists and a dope freestyler.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? I've seen you perform a couple times.
Oh, word. Appreciate it, man.
People don't appreciate the art of freestyling.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If you watch some of the shows, they're spitting out the dome, written stuff. But
right.
I've seen you do the real thing.
Oh, thank you, man. Appreciate it, man.
Right. Ardamus, how you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. Having fun at the DC Music Summit, man. Shout outs to Dior, Ashley Brown, and the sisters, and everybody that's been able to help out with this event, man. It's been very beautiful. Very beautiful.
Now, you're one of the panelists. The panelist you were doing was on sampling.
Yes, music sampling. So, me and Dior, we had a conversation at our crib one time. There was like a get-together, and we were just talking about the samples and old music. She was like, you know what, for the DC Music Summit, I want to do something where taking a sample is like creating a new song. Like when you take it and like do stuff to it, it becomes a new song all of a sudden. And I was like, that's a cool idea. It's funny. I started out being a rapper, doing vocals for years. I got into production like 10 to 15 years ago.
What made you want to get into production?
It was like almost a necessity, you know. This is for the gearheads and the beat nerds that understand this. The MPC 2000 was $2,000. I was like, if I can get this FL Studio for free $99, hey, I'm gonna do it, Jack. And but I was like, at the time, I was able to like get a hold of some software. Now I'm like kind of reverse engineering myself to hardware. Okay. So yeah, that was the main thing with production for me. And I wanted to be able to like produce my own stuff and be able to help out other artists that probably needed it as well. And with the sampling thing, you know, I came up on that from being involved with hip hop, or my dad raising me on jazz records and soul records, and it's just like it was a big influence on me.
I mean, if you grew up in hip hop, if you're a hip hop fan, then sampling is part of your heart.
Completely. Yes. I actually had to have this conversation with somebody who told me like sampling was just too easy, whatever, but like a lot of people don't understand there's a very significant cultural like involvement with sampling and what it's done for a lot of people in terms of music and just what it's like been able to, just what people been able to create with these samples, you know. A good friend of mine, shout out to Flex Matthews, he said something important I thought about with vinyl. He said when he listens to vinyl, he feels like he's listening to his elders. Right. So like, when you're listening to like records, you know, you get some of that old feel. You know, you might throw in some Funkadelic or something. Right. You know, there might be something within that music.
It takes you to a time.
Take you to a time. And some of us are sampling because of that. You know, it's carrying on tradition to a degree.
You know, I think those that have bashed and continue to bash sampling, I don't think they understand the importance of sampling, because when hip hop first started, we didn't have instruments.
Yes.
It was started in the ghettos.
Yes.
Right? So we had to use what we had right there.
Completely. So this is, and shout out to my panelists, DJ Olo from Beat Conductors, my man Unknown, part of Good Company at Tours of Odyssey, and my man Neil Beekton from Some Records. When we were doing the panel, and actually Olo made that same point that you made about using what you have as your resource in order for you to make your beats, because we were talking about pause tapes, and I told them, I was like,
I was there for that.
You know, I tried to make up a few pause tapes. Them tapes, man, I stopped making beats for a while when I was like, nah, this ain't gonna work. But it was, you know, it was beautiful to talk about that in terms of like sampling from like the past until now. You know, now you can use software to do it. You can use like hardware still, and you know, there's legalities, of course. So we went into that royalty-free stuff. It was a good panel, man. And most of the people, they already knew how to sample. They just wanted to have the conversation about it with other people, and I thought that was beautiful.
You know, speaking of the legalities, sampling-based production got to a point where it got hella expensive. When artists started getting wide, started trying to get their royalties back. Then you had a new sound, which maybe led to the trap sound, different sounds. How you feel about the new production sounds, new production styles?
You know what's funny? So.
Nothing wrong with trap, by the way. I'm just
yeah. You know what's funny? I was when I was getting ready for this panel, I came across a particular article, a blog post actually, from TrackLib that like specializes in helping artists get like licensed to use samples. The thing was, they were saying that 15% of the top Billboard albums that came out used samples.
15%.
15%. And then there was like another, I need to make sure I have this right, up to about 80-something% of the producers now are sample-based, top producers. So that's got to make you wonder, like, as far as like how far is sampling gone. And then you have like just avenues of where, you know, people are able to clear samples at a cheaper rate.
Right.
Or like, you know, you can still put out music with samples. Like, it's just like the game is opened up for way more than I think a lot of people know. And it's like, I'm not going to say there are ways to get around everything and all that. It's just that, you know, understanding what you can do. Because my man Unknown, when he was talking about sampling, he said one of the key things that I think I hear, it's like when it loses that texture. You know, like when hip hop and certain sample, not going to say certain samples, sampling has a certain texture to it that when you hear the beat, you're like, dang, there's like a certain kind of thing to this or whatever. And then sometimes when people just play out music, sometimes it doesn't always sound as great. Like it just sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And I think like people think sampling is like lazy. It's like actually no, it's a lot goes into it. You still might have to play like an engineer to get like you might have to filter this sample. You know, you might have to like put something else in it to make it sound like okay, this is a new song, or it's like complete. So
you know, Dre spoke about when he was doing the Chronic, how he would bring in a band to replay the samples.
Right.
The Parliament, you know what I'm saying, the P-Funk samples.
Right.
But he had a band that played it.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, and I'm not going to mention this artist. He's actually kind of big. But there's a particular producer who I talked to about like how his records with the MC he works with, they have a lot of live sound to it. He was saying that he takes a lot of the soul sample beats he has. He's able to mix them and get them like sounding a particular way, and then when he gets the texture of the sounds from the band he works with, he like resequences them and is able to like make them like sound like a different song, but somehow he's still able to engineer
integrity.
The integrity and the texture is there. But yeah, I don't think there's, you know what, with the whole trap thing though, I'm not going to say it's always great. I'm not going to say it's always bad. I would just say that, you know what, it got a little easier for these guys with like these trap kids, you know. It got a little easier.
Right.
But you know, same time, you know, we're in that day and age with all these
with new technology.
Yeah, new technology. It just made it easier. That sound happens to be the sound of apparently the companies want to push as the thing to use. That is what it is, you know.
You know, the irony of trap, and this is just my opinion, I lived in the South.
Yeah.
You know, when the South has extension.
Yeah.
I lived in Atlanta, 94, 95.
Nashville.
You know, right. So I grew up, I'm from the West, but my parents are from Alabama.
Right.
So I grew up going to Alabama every year, listening to booty shake music, Miami bass.
Yeah.
So it's funny how you have these samples type production, but trap in particular, it's not a good thing, it's not a bad thing, it's a thing.
It's a thing.
But a lot of the elements that trap uses, the hi-hats, the 808s, booty shake and Miami bass were doing the same thing.
Yeah, you know, the 80 and the 80, yeah, exactly. And the 808, I mean, they was using that heavy in New York, like the drum kit. It's just that, you know, they're you can only use that kit, that sound for so long until it's just like people are like, you know, switch it up a little bit.
It's redundant.
A little redundant. But, you know, that's neither here nor there, man. Though the sampling panel was cool, man. I was proud to have like fellow like beat heads there, or beat makers and producers, like just willing to have a discussion, man. And this has been great, man. Like this whole event, man. So it's been great.
Yeah, all day we've been talking to people talking about the importance of the music summit.
Right.
You know, there's one thing I always say in every interview. People always think about the music, but forget about the business part of it.
Yes. So, I mean, it's always been a struggle for me, man, because, like, you know, for me, I mean, I've been here since, like, the late 90s, and it was kind of a ground-up process for me to even get my art right. By the time you get your art right, trying to get the business right, that's another hard hurdle. You're out of breath trying to get the art right, and then you're like, oh, I need to get the business right.
And we had, one of the panelists for the main panel represent, the legal aspect of that. So this is why Music Summit is important.
Completely. And there's a lot of, and I was having another conversation with some other folks here, man. People are hungry for that. People have been hungry about music in DC for a very long time. The fact of the matter is we have a very government-based industry in this town, and it does like cater to the arts. However, we don't have it where a Capitol Records is up the street from us, like it's like L.A. or in New York. You can just walk up to the Def Jam offices.
You throw a rock in your direction, you're gonna run into a record label.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have that here. We have a lot of the grassroots feel when it comes to the music. Like, we have the DIY ethic. If you think about how Discord Records came up with Ian MacKaye on the indie rock scene, when you think about how Go-Go has always been, like how bands have been on the come up with their tapes, like Rare Essence and Junkyard Backyard, like that DIY ethic is here. But like the business aspect and people being able to be informed about different things, this is what the DC music is like kind of calling for, and helping people and just giving them a direction. Like, here, you can try this. You don't know how to do this and organize yourself better, but boom, well, file for an LLC or get an escort popping, or you need an EIN. Well, cool. Like, get your articles of business in order, and you can do that. Now,
you say you've been here since the '90s.
Yeah.
What is the biggest change you've seen in the DC music scene, particularly hip hop?
So now, it's funny, like, knowing about places like State of the Union, Metro Gallery, Erico's, Ben & Mo's, all those places are gone now. And I feel like the main thing I've seen change as far as the hip-hop scene here is, like, there's never been a consistent venue for us to stay in. We have memories of places that are around, but they don't ever stay around long enough for us to be able to do more things in. Rest in peace to Live. I know it got reopened, I think. Live in Bohemian Caverns.
It's called something else, but Live, I think.
Live, yeah.
Live.
It got reopened, but the thing is, like, that was a historic place for jazz, and they welcomed in hip-hop artists. They welcomed in R&B artists, all kinds of people. Cap City Records is gone. Rest in peace to that. Bar None became, golly, I always forget. Bar None became, it's escaping me right now. But
it'll come to later on.
Yeah, I know, right? I always remember it as Bar None. But, like, it's those places are gone. They cultivated a particular kind of culture for a lot of us artists here, and I feel like we don't always get the hub that we would like to have. And around the city, we get scattered. Nobody knows who. Like, somebody might be like, "You've been rapping for how long in this area? We don't know about you." Well, it's because everybody's so scattered. The city has, like, almost like different scenes of, like, hip hop within the area that nobody really knows about. There are people, like, out in the VA area and the Maryland area that don't know about people in DC, and vice versa. It happens. So I don't think we have enough venues for us to have, like, a legacy to say, hey, a staying power, I guess. Right. So I don't know if I rest that right, but yeah.
Right. One more thing before we get out of here. Yeah. Sampling. Without sampling, there would be no Primo.
I think so, yeah.
There would be no Pete Rock.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? So let's not forget that sampling is not as easy as you think it is. That it has built not many careers, but it all has left a legacy.
Completely.
Complete legacy.
Completely.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Now, I was going to say, you got to consider, too, there's, like, the chopping of the samples was a very important on Primo's side. You look at, like, the bass lines with Pete Rock or whatever, like, Pete Rock was able to, like, develop a certain kind of, like, mix between the drums and the bass lines. The bass line was almost like the star to a degree, but then the melodies are smooth, and he's working with, like, a lot of people who can work with what he's doing, like, very, very well. It's like those are important things. Those are important, like, things in the hip hop and music all around that people should recognize.
Right. Yeah. Now, please let the people know where they can find you, contact you, how they can reach you.
Oh, cool. If you look online, Ardamus. Let's see, on IG at The Real Ardamus, Ardamus, once again. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. If you look around, I'm there. Right. Shout out to my people's Cabal Core. Shout out to Fresh Tribe. My band Strangers That Click. Man. Yeah.
Well, we thank you for giving a few minutes of your time, man.
Appreciate you.
It.
Yeah, man. Gemix. Y'all support Gemix, all right?
Thank you, brother. Thank you. All right.
Peace.
Good interview, man. Appreciate that. Appreciate that, man.